ladies and gentlemen, welcome to it.
Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins and bless up to the world.
And then Tay just put your info on blast like that.
It's what the people want to know, bro. My bad.
Nah, bro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to it. It is the Morning Shake with me, your host, Xavier Hendricks, and of course, my co-host, Mr. J. Paris. What's happening today, my
What's
brother?
happening? Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins and bless up to the world. It's your boy, J. Paris. And we coming to you live on this beautiful Monday morning from Johannesburg, South Africa. It's the Morning Shake, powered by The Inside Show. And it's one of the best podcasts in the world. Good morning. What's happening, broski?
Hey, what's going on? Good morning to the masses. Just right on time, you know. How's everybody doing? You good, brother?
Easy, bro.
Zex, you
Yeah,
right?
thanks for coming through.
Yeah,
So,
good.
so we just started
man.
summer greeting, but Jay, don't you want to welcome our guest that we got on the show this
No,
morning?
most definitely. First
Not that they're strangers to the show
bro.
at all.
Yeah, bro. First and foremost, obviously, it's an interesting topic, bro. Very interesting topic. So
It's a deep topic, but it's been on the front line since the Chris Rock story with the Will Smith thing, and also now with the Johnny Depp thing. People are starting to ask questions. Hold on, man. Ain't like these men are being abused. Yeah, nobody's saying anything.
Are the roles reversed?
Yeah.
But we definitely gonna get into it, broski. But first and foremost, we got Llewellyn Oliver. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning. Like Xavier said, we don't have strangers here in the building.
Hey,
good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this topic because it's a hot topic, but it's a topic that is close to my heart. It's a topic that, man, it's so real. It's so real, and it's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about legacy and promoting real men living real lives and serving a real God.
No, definitely. We don't usually have tissues on a Monday morning, bro, and we homies here, so I don't know anyone been through something that might just shed a tear or something.
Well, just put them closer to me because I think I'm gonna need them.
Oh, you might need them, but without any further ado, Wayne Chaff, how you doing, bro?
I'm good on yourself, brother. How are you?
Now all is well.
Yeah, it's getting real here.
no, most definitely.
Yeah. I think for me, this is also like right up my alley, meaning that it's something that we need to speak about because I think it just feels like right from, I think, the elementary stages, the boy child is being left behind. Yeah. And because of that, when they come of age, you see them reacting as well. And also some people are timid that because of them being left behind, they're actually getting abused in silence. And it comes in different forms. I think that's what we're going to explore today here. And so it is something that we really need to talk about because we haven't spoken about it. And because of our failure to speak about it has resulted in a lot of men being left behind. And some, because they're physically strong, they end up abusing their subjects, if I have to put it that way.
They used what they've got at their disposal to do. And oftentimes, so like we started the show off today, man. The conversation of men abuse has really hit the spotlight. After the first instance was obviously when Will Smith walks up to Chris Rock, slaps him in the face, and everyone's like, what happened? And then people start analyzing the video. Then they say, yeah, but Jada, he was laughing in the beginning. Then she looked at him dirty to say, are you laughing? And he was like, that whole thing, are you going to leave him? And then he was like, let me defend my wife here. And then, he goes and slaps him. But then people take it one step further to the red table talk and say, so are you feeling that you now need to defend or prove yourself to her because she doesn't care about you? Then people take it one step further to say that she was talking about Tupac all the time, and Will Smith kind of felt, and in his book and in the interviews, he keeps saying that he feels insignificant, he feels unappreciated, he feels like, that she doesn't really care about him. And so then that's the topic of, but hold on, man, there's an element of mental and emotional abuse going on here that people are not getting into, right? Then we go one step further. At the moment, one of the trials that everyone's following is the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing, where we're now getting voice notes and things coming through where she blatantly is abusing the guy, and he's like being quiet and saying like, no, it's fine, I don't want to fight, can I just leave now, please? I don't want to get into this and this. And then the conversation then rises where she goes and makes a case against him, and she wins the case originally in London, and And she then makes an article against him, and the article goes viral, and the homie then ends up losing his gigs. They end up closing doors for him. Things start happening. And so he feels like, but hold on, half of those things are not even true. But now I'm losing work over it for things that are not true. And so now the conversation starts to bubble up to the top, because now people are saying, how many times has this happened where a woman would go and say, he raped me, or he abused me, this happened, that happened. And sometimes it's not true. Look, we can't say that it's not always true, because this is happening. And like you say, men are doing these things. So again, I think just to cover the conversation before we even get into it, is that when we speak about a specific side of the table, it doesn't mean that we're negating the other side of the table. When we're saying that men are being abused, we're not saying in the same breath, that means women are not being abused. No, that's not what it means. It both can be true at the same time, right? And so now the conversation bubbles to the top, where people are now starting to say, but hold on, how much of this is going on behind closed doors? And so I was just to start off the conversation, I was telling Llewellyn before the show starts, last week I'm getting my daughter's passport ready, and we go in and we go and apply for it. And then there's a social worker at the Home Affairs office that is walking around getting us to fill in forms and things about social workers. And then she starts speaking to me. So I feel like she profiled me, because I look young and I'm a colored guy, and she's seeing my child running around. So immediately she probably thinks, this one, he probably has a bunch of kids running around with different girls, But anyway, I'm quiet and I let her speak. And I can feel that she's kind of judging me by what she's saying. But it's fine, I let her speak. She's like, and if there's abuse in the home, you must let us know. We're from the Department of Child Affairs and what and what. So I'm like, okay, no. And she starts explaining. So then I say to her, but sometimes these men, they don't want to say if the abuse is the other way. She says, sometimes they say the police laugh at him because how you a man, why are you letting this woman hit you, or why are you letting abuse? And to start off the conversation, I think society has a major issue and a major part to play in how men are being viewed, how women are being viewed, who we take seriously, who we don't take seriously. Men are supposed to be the strong, people that can't, that must always, tigers don't cry. And so now when you go to the police station and say this, now the gents are laughing at you. I'm not, you're a man, why are you letting the woman do this to you?
Yeah, so that's why a lot of homies don't come out and
that's exactly why some of the gents think, let me just keep quiet and take this one behind the closed door. And so I guess let me throw the conversation out in the air, and then whoever wants to hop onto it can jump in there and go in for it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I think a lot of the time, it's self-imposed. As men, because of society, because of culture, we put unnecessary weight on ourselves, where we mistake vulnerability for weakness. So we don't want to let people know that, hey, I'm hurting, hey, something happened to me. Because the minute we let it out, we think, and this is the key, we think that people around us is going to take it that I'm weak now. That I allowed something to happen and I'm weak. So I'm not the man I should be. Society, and because we allow, we are a generation who's shaped by music and by TV. We're shaped by the media.
Movies and music.
Yeah, movies and music. We see the most successful rappers. I'm a huge fan of rap. I can't rap to save my life, but I love it. You see the most successful rappers, big guys spending time in the gym, always surrounded by bodyguards. And you think, well, that's what a man should look like. But what happens behind closed doors? We don't know. You don't know the past hurt. You don't know the past pain. You could be sitting next to someone who was bullied as a child, who was bullied in school, and they're trying to mask their pain. I mean, we were talking, you mentioned about Chris Rock, and we started chatting briefly before the show, and we said, Chris Rock tells a story that he spends 7 hours a week in therapy. Why? Because he's dealing with past pain. With this whole thing of with the whole conversation shift to men abuse, people are talking about Will Smith, and I love the guy, no disrespect to Will Smith. What about Chris Rock? Why did he respond the way he responded? And I say respond, not react. Because he's been training himself 7 hours a week is training. That's gym. If I'm in therapy for 7 hours a week, it's like going to the gym every day, 7 days a week for an hour a day. So he's training himself how to deal with the pressures of life because of past mistakes, because of past hurt. That boy was bullied when he was young, to a point where he almost killed someone when he stood up for himself. And in his interviews with Trevor Noah, he actually said that the reason he won't allow himself to get angry is because the one time he did, he almost killed someone. So people laugh at the man saying, well, that's how you responded. You didn't even stand up for yourself. You didn't even defend yourself. You stood there and allowed yourself to be bullied on an international scene. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, this guy is dealing with deeper pain. The slap is a slap. It's gone. They're going to be memes forever. But he's dealing with issues. He's at least been able to stand up and say, and this was back in 2020. He didn't wait for this to happen to realize he's got a problem. His interview was in 2020 when he spoke about his 7 hours a week in the therapist's room.
But I like the fact that a lot of people are giving Chris Rock his flowers for the way he responded to the situation. Wayne, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think when you actually take a look at what happened there, I know that's not what we're talking about here today, but it's a perfect example. That was the kind of slapping and humiliating men has been happening for, decades. Yeah. It's just that fortunately or unfortunately we get to capture this one on live television. But if you look at Chris Rock, how he responded, and I love the fact that Llewellyn is actually saying that he responded, is that we are dealing with the issue of toxic masculinity here. Chris Rock had to respond that way simply because, one, he's actually at work. He's working.
He needs to stay professional.
He has to stay professional. If that was in the streets, it could have gone...
it could have really went south.
So, but also, he's under contract. There are code of conduct, there are ethics and conditions on how you work. That's why I was very quick to say, and I'm going to stop talking about your wife. But behind closed doors, it was a different, reaction to that. So I think when we speak about the issues that men are dealing with, most of the stuff is actually in private. Yeah. Publicly, we always want to come out to be these public personas and act tough because that's all we've been taught. Boys don't cry and don't act like a sissy, don't be a girl. There's all kind of words that are always thrown at us from a very young age. If you fall and you're bruised and you're bleeding, your sister is allowed to cry, but you are not allowed to cry because you're a boy. Man up, man up, man up. So the whole man up thing, it's totally misunderstood. To man up means you need to be in touch with your emotions. And that's where most of us are falling short, that we are not in touch with our emotions. Like we are subhumans. We are not allowed to be fully human. So we are not allowed to express emotions publicly. Like when you go to funerals, you hardly see men crying. It's always women that are crying, and it's like when you cry as a man, it's like, no, man, you don't cry like that as a man, whatever it is.
Be strong for your family.
Then you bottle up all those emotions, and you just need an opening. Something just triggers you, then everything comes out. Then most times, unfortunately, it finds its exit through violence. Because we're not able to express ourselves. So it comes out through violence. Because we know we are physically strong. So for example, in terms of Will and Chris, if you look at their sizes, it was easy for Will to actually go for a skinny guy and slap him like that. If it was The Rock, I'm sure you all saw, would he have stood up and go and slap him?
Probably wouldn't have.
If it was, let's say, DMX, OG, or even if it was Pac, you know what I mean? So you can see that it's this bruised and toxic masculinity that is actually destroying us. Now, the abuse that takes place at homes, in the workplace, because there are men abusing men verbally, emotionally. There are women that are abusing men by belittling them, saying stuff about them in front of their friends. Basically, you're nobody, you're not a man enough and stuff like that. And you soak those kind of things in. You're going to have a place where you can debrief, a place where you can actually have an exit for that kind of stuff. If you don't, then we are seeing what we are seeing right now.
I think one of the questions I want to throw in before we get to the solutions of the problem, because you started hinting towards solutions, even you started hinting towards solutions. What kind of abuse do we face as men? Because I know with women abuse, the one that obviously sticks out is actually physical abuse. The fact that I was hit, blue eyes, raped is a big one. But with men, it might not be physical abuse. Very well can be physical abuse. I mean, I know guys that have been thrown with cups and saucers against their head. I know guys that have been scratched every weekend. It very well can be physical. But more often than not, there's a sadistic kind of abuse that comes through that you can't see with the naked eye, and you almost can't even prove it. But in that house, that man knows, he's even scared of his girlfriend. He's even scared of his wife, because he's like, let me just go, because now it's going to be another story. I've endless friends that I know that are in those situations.
I have written down 5.
Go for it.
But I know that there's probably hundreds and stuff like that. Okay. Do you know that probably 60% or even more of men who are married, they actually spend a couple minutes or maybe an hour in the car before they go inside the house after work? Just trying to navigate how do I handle myself inside the house. Like, for example, if you are late, you're supposed to be at home at 9 p.m. and you're there at 9:30, you'll be like, okay,
let's get the story straight.
Yeah, how am I? Because you understand what awaits you inside. So I think the first one that is actually so prevalent is we get verbally abused, belittled, that we are even humiliated in front of friends, colleagues, or family, or even on social media. There are women that are just taking their men to task on social media. Once you go there, that is like a mob. As a guy, you can't even defend yourself. The subtle ways, it's like, being possessive, act jealous, or harass you with accusation of being unfaithful. Very common. Just because maybe she's insecure, she can throw that at you and you can't actually defend yourself. The most important one is that they take away your car keys or medication and try to control you where you go and who you see. I've actually had a friend who's like, bruh, I'm on chronic medication. My wife takes my car keys and my medication. So without my chronic medication, I can't leave the house. Otherwise, I'm going to be a mess when I get out there. They try to control by how you spend your money or deliberately default on joint financial obligation. So if she's paying maybe mortgage or paying school fees, whatever it is, she doesn't pay the other one. And when it comes to your family. And you'll be like, but you're supposed to do this. You're the man, go and do it. So it's that also a form of abuse that you will never find out, They make false allegations about you to your friends, employer, or the police, or find other ways to manipulate and isolate you. And the last one, they threaten to leave you and prevent you from seeing your kids if you report the abuse. Those are the I've got a friend right now who's writing a book on divorce, 700 pages. He just details what actually went down in that 5-year marriage. It is sad, where the police come and they didn't even want to hear his side of the story, and he's in handcuffs in front of his kids. Do you understand that your wife gets you arrested and you're in handcuffs, and your daughter who's like 7, your son who's 11, they see you in handcuffs and they don't understand what's going on, and the mom is screaming at the top of her voice and the police are pushing into the van, and you're like, but I didn't do anything. No, you're abusing this wife, you're abusing the woman, and the kids are totally confused. It's going to take them years to clear you up. That is a good dad. And you find guys like, they're crying and they don't know. They're just basically bound. They don't know what to do or who to run to. And I think it boils down to us not being able to talk like we are talking now.
And I think also what the other massive problem that we don't see, that is, it's a massive problem, but we don't speak about it, is that those kids, like in the scenario you just explained, because I'm telling you, as we're speaking now, those things are happening in someone's house. Last night, that was happening in someone's house. Fighting, Now these kids are in that environment. What's busy happening? That kid now is forming in his or her little 5-year-old brain. They thinking, oh, this is what marriage looks like. Oh, this is what a relationship looks like. Oh, this is what. So guess what happens when that boy is 17, 16, 17, and he likes a girl at school, and they start now getting, physical, and things start happening. Now what begins to happen is they're now dating, right? Now they're friends at school or whatever. They come to school holding hands. They pour each other these little rings, promise rings and whatever. Now what happens is they have some sort of misunderstanding. What's the first reference of that 16-year-old boy's way of solving this problem? The only reference he has is that I saw daddy hitting mommy. I saw mommy throwing daddy with a cup. So in his mind, he thinks this is the way to resolve an issue. And so what begins to happen is what we call in the Christian circles, what do they say? A generational curse. That now what begins to happen, you are now replicating what you saw your parents do, what they saw their parents do. And look here, this thing is a real thing. My wife and I have these conversations every day about our grandparents and then our parents and then things that we must be careful for not bringing into our house, things that happen that generationally started trickling down that you don't even realize why, but subconsciously it started falling into the back of your mind that, this is how you deal with situations. Do you want to hop onto something there?
No, that generational, it's so important because that's the whole idea of legacy. Everybody is leaving a legacy, whether you want to or not, whether you realize it or not. The difference is we as men need to be intentional about that legacy. We talk about, yes, the child grows up seeing daddy abusing mommy or mommy abusing daddy, and they emulate that. They're naturally going to do that unless we're intentional about changing that. But what they don't see is that what happens, Wayne was saying, some of the five things that you identified of how men get abused. There's another way that men are actually getting abused nowadays. It's withholding, and we just guys. So I'm just talking. So it's your wife withholding sex from you because you didn't.
Someone just commented that
you didn't do what I wanted you to do in the way I wanted you to do.
The rewarding metrics.
I'm withholding intimacy from you. Yeah.
And that can also be a form of abuse towards a man. Or you didn't answer the way I wanted you to answer, or you didn't look at me the way I wanted you to look at me. And I always say that if there's one thing I'm bad at, it's picking up cues. So if you want me to know
then
something, tell me. I'm not going to read your mind. I'm not going to see what you. I can't see what you're thinking. So if you want something, if you want me to respond in a certain way, tell me. Let's have a conversation. And a lot of men in this day and age go through that. And that's what drives them to the wrong places. That's what drives them to fight back or to be unfaithful or to not be the man they're supposed to be. That's one of the keys. That's one of the key places where men are being abused.
Because you can go into one or two mindsets. You can go into the mindset of, let me submit, let me try and sort the thing out, or you can flip into beast mode, now, because now I'll show you. Now you want to go fight. Or now you're like, you're accusing me of cheating. Now I'll go out and show you I'll cheat. And some men flip into that mode of now I'll give you a reason.
Come on, let's just be serious here and be real here, because for how long can you masturbate when you're married? You can't do that.
Yeah.
So that is killing a lot of marriages, bro. Like you go the whole month without getting into the sack, and it becomes problematic for a guy.
Look at Jay.
He's not married, so he does not understand. You slip into this woman next to her every night, and she is not hiding anything. She parades, up and down the room
with underwears
and naked and stuff because you're married, but you can't touch her. And so you normally take out 30 minutes before you can sleep. Now this time around it's 7 hours. You're wide awake because the boy won't allow you to sleep. Then this goes on for months. Then what you do?
You go and
mentally,
switch on your phone.
No, mentally you messed up.
Yeah.
Mentally you messed up. Next
Facts.
thing you got your phone, then you're going to the loo, lock yourself up in there, whatever.
Your 5 wives.
Yeah. For how long can you do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then you know that you're not happy. Because if you're not happy at home, you're not happy anywhere. That's the saying, happy wife, happy life. So if your wife is not happy with you, you're not happy anywhere.
But
and you become destructive.
Look, we need to have that conversation. I want to hop onto that with Wayne. Just get through the comments quick.
Well, yeah, good morning and shout out to Romario and Joan Horn. So Romario goes on to say men aren't taken serious enough when they speak up and speak out. Then we have Leonie Moret saying, yes, Wayne, that's why society is so broken. It started there with that conversation. Men don't cry. Once we allow men to cry, our country will move into a healthier environment. And then Sheldon Banks goes on by saying they withhold kids, money, and sex.
What was that last thought that you just dropped there, Wayne? I want us to explore that thought.
Well, I was speaking about I was speaking about withholding, but I think I was venturing into the fact that marriages are not working because of those kind of dynamics. You know what I mean? But I think what I want to venture into is the fact that what doesn't get transformed in your lifetime will get passed down to your lineage or to the next generation. So if we are as men aren't able to actually sort out these problems right here, right now, then we should expect our sons and daughters to experience the same thing. So it becomes this vicious cycle. You know what I mean? But the whole solution begins by having the conversation. We need to be talking candidly as we are talking now. Because every time after the service, I spend time with either girls or boys, who are part of my team. Then we talk candidly like we're speaking now about issues that sometimes are so hard for you to preach about. But one of the things which people have been bringing up, like last night, Guguletu said to me that, look, but how come you pastors are not preaching the stuff that is so hard that that we are dealing with?
Struggling.
For example, here we are speaking about men being abused. It would be great to hear a sermon on that, so that men and women hear it equally. But it's not a popular sermon to preach because it's a hard one. You're going to have people crying and people getting up, people leaving, all that kind of stuff. But why are we not doing it? So if we cannot preach in the pulpit, then we have legacy conference coming up. All the men that are watching here, it becomes your responsibility now to say, hey, we heard what the guys were talking about and there's a conference coming up. Why don't you all go there? Because we're going to be real. We're going to be real.
Exactly.
I'm not coming to play games here. I'm about to bring stuff that I have struggled with personally. Stuff that my friends are struggling. So I want to just say, God help us and just be real and see how we can actually get to the other side. Because our generation, if there isn't a change right now, we're going to sing and dance in church and still die in church.
Facts. Lou, do you want to hop in on that?
Sure. My mind's just gone to, what you just said, if how it's going to be transferred to the next generation. And that's so important. We've got to take hold of that. I know of someone who watched their father being belittled in their home as they were growing up. And I've seen the pain and the damage that's done to a person. But no one's taken the chance. It's too late now to ask the man who's now late, how did you feel in that? But now we're seeing the pain being transferred to the next generation because now they're dealing with this pain. That, I saw my father being belittled by everyone in the family. And how do I deal with that? How do I not do that in my home?
Because there's a psychological effect.
It messes with your mind. That's why it's so important for us to get to this point that men speak out. If something is not right, the same thing we tell our daughters, the same thing we tell our wives, the same thing we tell our women in our society. If something is wrong, speak out. If someone does something wrong, speak out. We as men need to hear this message that if something is not right, if you've hurt me, if you're saying something that I don't agree with, I need to speak out. I need to have that confidence as a man that I can speak out and I won't be taken for a fool. That I'm not going to become a meme tomorrow because I spoke out today. Because in society that's how we mock people. This modern society, if I say something and you think you find comedic value at my expense, I'm going to become a meme.
Bro, let me just share an experience with you. My dad left us when I was 8 and my brother was 9. Then he showed up when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
Then 3 weeks later he died. So I have 3 memories of my dad. So I think the time that I saw him before he passed on, he was very sick. And I had so many questions that I wanted to ask him, because I'm a 16-year-old boy now. And I wanted to ask him, Dad, How did you get up in the morning? Where did you get the strength to wake up in the morning when you didn't have all figured out, when you could not provide? Did you love mommy? What about those moments when it was so hard for you to love mommy? What did you do? How did you get the strength to wake up and go and do what you do and still come back home? Dad, why did you leave us? Did we do anything wrong? Talk to me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get answers.
How often do you find a situation where
Couldn't get answers.
Yeah.
And I think I was so fearful. I must have shared this with Xavier, is that because my dad left us when I was 8. When my boy turned 7, I was in a state. I was like sleepless nights. Sorry guys. I was crying because it felt like I was gonna leave my family before my boy turns 8. That thing stuck with me. Yeah, and my wife said, "No, you're a good dad. You're not gonna do that." But it was so real to me that because I remember how it felt when my dad walked out.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if I walk out on my boy before he turns 8? And I become exactly like my dad, because it was stuff that wasn't addressed.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying now is that there are certain giants that we are fighting today that we're not meant to be fighting. These are the giants that our fathers and our mothers should have fought and defeated. But they weren't addressed, and they've been passed on to this generation. And we are fighting a battle that we don't know how to win, because we failed. Our parents failed to fight that battle and win those battles. And I'm saying, God forbid that we also leave undefeated giants for our kids to fight and stuff like that.
So
how often do you find a situation where you find that the mother had an issue with the father, right? And in an attempt to spite, you're not going to see the child, and then sometimes there's a lack of wisdom that happens where, your father does this, your father said this, your father doesn't love you, your father this, your father that. And what sometimes the mothers are not understanding is that you because you're upset with the father, and I have, at the moment, I have 2 friends that are dealing with this, and that confide with me personally on this matter, where they had arguments. Look, they both didn't get married to the child's mother, but when they had misunderstanding with the mother, the first thing, one of those withholding things that came, you're not going to see the child. You're not going to see the child. Now the guy has to go to court to force and show that. And another thing what happened was that he was buying clothes, buying nappies, buying things, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then she would go and say, he doesn't care, he doesn't pay anything. And so I told him, bro, at some point you're going to have to hold some sort of record of what you buy and what you do. He said, bro, there's times I buy things and then give it to her, and then she goes and either goes and changes it at, like, let's say I bought a bunch of things from Edgar's to the value of $800 or something. She goes and changes it, and then she buys herself morning slippers or a gown or something with that $800, and then says, I didn't buy clothes for the child. And these are the kind of things that every day, these are ones that come because I do counseling. They speak these things to me. They say, my bro, I don't know what else to do because this is what's going on. Then when we get to court and things, she says, I didn't pay, I don't care. So now he has this thing where he now removes the tag before he gives the clothes. He has this thing now where he swipes for the thing so that it shows on his bank statement, and he keeps the slip to show that this is what he bought, because now he has to defend himself around every corner because the mother has a problem with him, but now she's not dealing with it maturely between the two of them. She's now using the child as an escape or as a pawn to say, your father, look, he doesn't worry with you and this and this. Now, what damage is that causing on that 7-year-old child, 5-year-old child that now thinks my father doesn't love me? Now this child goes to school, he goes and bullies children, he goes and gets up to mischief, he goes now start doing drugs, he starts now wanting to go with a gun to school. It's now we say, look how men are trash, look at the society, look at this. But what we're not dealing with is, hold on, how did this little kid get to this place? Because surely there's a backstory here. Surely this kid feels like unwanted. He feels like nobody cares about him. He feels some sort of something, and now he's acting out with violence, like you said earlier, or he's acting out now on drugs. He's acting out in some sort of way. And over 90% of the time, that's the case. when you sit down and get behind the crux of the matter, you realize, oh snap, there's emotional damage here, there's psychological damage, there's things going on here, and this child just doesn't know how to deal with it. And how often do you find that that is the case, where the child is used as a pawn to spite the father, but in fact the child has to now deal exactly with your story, what you just said. Now your child is turning 8 now. You're thinking, yeah, how am I going to make? Now you don't know. If you had a conversation with your father, you would have said, hey, my boy, I didn't want to leave. Me and your mother, hey, you know this and this and this. You don't. Now you'll never know because it's not there anymore.
No,
but
I mean, because there's so much pressure in the household. But I'm just saying, now that we are sitting here, I always ask myself, and I'm sure there's a lot of young men out there who ask the same question, like, how do I become a father when I haven't been fathered?
Yeah.
How do I become a father when I haven't been fathered? Where do I begin?
Let's speak a little bit about the society pressure that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, you see, society puts so much pressure on us, and I want to just touch on that. How do I be what I haven't been showed how to be? I want to just touch on that, Pastor Wayne, because that is something that I struggled with. You know, as a young boy, I never spoke about it because, you know, boys, we don't cry, we bottle things up, we don't want to show weakness, even as a 7-8-year-old. It's something that's in us, you know. It's certain things are passed, are transferred, whether you want it or not. Certain things come down in your genes. So if you're going to be timid and you're not going to speak out, you know, if I look at my late dad, he also wouldn't speak out. And I look at when I was growing up struggling with things, I didn't speak out, and I often ask myself, but why? Because certain things, whether you want it or not, is going to come in your genes. It's going to be transferred to you in your genes. And I'll never forget when I realized what the problem was, and verbal abuse. Once again, I'm not saying it's your wife, or it's your girlfriend, or it's your mother, or it's a woman who's verbally abusing you. Because verbal abuse for men can come from anywhere. It can come from my boys who think they're just being funny and they're just joking, and they just feel like they're gonna tease me today, or they're gonna just make me feel as small as possible to make themselves feel good. But that kind of verbal abuse, you know, my first experience with it was when I was in Sub B. I'm a Durban boy, you know. When I was in Sub B, I had a teacher who told me, "You're stupid."
Sure.
And when I went home and I told my mother this, she realized what was happening, and she prayed, but then she did the next step, which is where a lot of men don't go, is we went into a counseling program, where we went into a way of, how do we address this? How do we fix this? If you've had this label put on you, you know, as boys we told, sticks and stones will break your bones, but names can never hurt you. What a load of rubbish. Because if there's one thing that will break a boy and will result in a broken man and a broken society, is the names. Because if you tell me something enough without me wanting to, my mind is going to start believing it. It's like the elephant that is tied to a little tree stump when it's young. And while it's young, it can't pull out the tree. But it just keeps going around this tree stump because it's been conditioned. Its mind is being conditioned, not its strength, because that elephant is still super strong. That elephant can still pull the tree stump out, but it's been conditioned while it's young, and the words are being spoken to it while it's young. That when it's a mammoth-sized elephant, once it's fully grown, it still has a little chain
and tied to
holding
a peg.
it to a peg in the ground, and it thinks it can't move. It thinks it can't become who it's supposed to be. And so many times for us as men, that's where we are. We were told, you're stupid, you can't do this. Then it went on in my life, and I'm just sharing. Then it went on in my life where I was bullied at school.
So,
because I wasn't the same as everyone. You know, I came from Durban, then we moved to Joburg, and I didn't speak like everyone. So that was also a target. And because of the environment we grew up in Durban, we weren't playing out. We couldn't play outside. You know, we grew up in Newlands East. There was drugs, there was gangs. The safest place for us was in the house or in our backyard. So when we moved to Joburg, I couldn't play soccer. There's another thing that the boys could pick on me for, that I'm not good with the soccer ball. That's why I tell anyone, even today, it's something I'm still dealing with. I tell anyone, give me any sport, but not the sport with the ball. I won't touch it. I'll watch it, I'll support it, I love the game, but don't put a ball in front of me.
So what sport do you play, bro?
Give me a bicycle and I'm gonna be there.
Give me a wheel, not a ball.
But this is how I was conditioned. You can't do this, you can't do that, you don't fit in. You don't speak like everyone, you don't understand. I couldn't speak Afrikaans. I couldn't understand the location dialect because I came from Durban. Then Durbanites speak a different way to Joburg people. Then I was bullied in my first 6 months at high school because orientation in the township is a different story to what our kids get today. And fortunately for me at that time, schools became open. And without even a second thought, my parents allowed me to move out of the township, sent me to the suburbs, and I grew, and I was there the rest of my life. And I could never fit in. And I didn't realize that this was a form of abuse that I was putting on myself because I wasn't dealing with the pain that came from that grade 2 teacher, sub-B teacher, that told me I was stupid, that started a conditioning program in my mind that spiraled right through school, where eventually I was the guy, yes, I made money on the side, but I was the guy that was in high school doing people's homework. Why? So I could fit in.
So you have to kind of like
kind of bullying.
You have to undermine yourself so that you can fit in. Yeah,
correct. And
make
so
yourself
many
small.
men go through this because we don't want to admit. We think it's a sign of weakness. That hey, I was bullied, but it doesn't mean that I'm gonna stay bullied. A few years ago, I'll never forget. I was sitting out in the Lapa in our old house, and I was saying to God, what can you do with me? I'm broken. What can you do with me? And God gave me 2 words that shaped my life. And he said, real men. I had no idea what it meant. And I shelved it and I said, Lord, I don't know. I don't know what this is because even in my church scenario, I feel like I'm not seen. You see me, yes, but I need affirmation. As a man, I don't feel I'm getting affirmation. My daughter was asking questions last week and she came home and she said, Dad, what's your love language? And I said, baby, what do you think it is? And for someone like me, because of the way I grew up, words of affirmation, if you want, you can get anything out of me. If you affirm who I am, if you see me. And it took me years to realize that, as long as God sees me, he will put me in a place where someone needs to know that it's okay. I see you. And you know what? It took me, in 2019, when I was called into a meeting with my senior pastor, my spiritual dad, and he put me in a role that scared me. And God reminded me,
real men.
Real men. Because for my primary school career, for my high school career, I struggled with, God, these people don't see me. My abuse didn't come from my parents. It didn't come from people who thought they actually out to abuse me. It was a combination of self-affliction and me realizing that, I don't think I'm good enough. Because I don't look like you, I don't talk like you, I don't understand. You're making a fool of me because I know you're guaraing me here. But because I don't grasp it completely, I'm an
can't
academic.
Defend yourself.
I can't defend myself because I can't come back because I'm going to make myself look more dumb. So what do? I go into the shell of I'm broken, I'm not good enough, I'm going to do whatever I can to stay under the radar. I want to fly low. I don't want to fly close to the sun. And that's society, because that's how that conditioning messes with us as men. When we realize, hey, this is a problem and I can speak out. I can. God sees me and God will put me in front of people who will identify
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are here for the first time, please do subscribe. We're going to get to some solutions now. But before we do, we want to run through some of your comments. And please do comment and say things because we actually want to read it. And it's part of the conversation we're having. Look, the guys are be speaking real things here. And I'm sure someone that's been going through some stuff now, even watching knows, I can identify. I also went through that. I also know that, especially like with your story, being bullied at school, being, made fun of. I can identify with that. Wayne's story, probably majority men had to grow up without their fathers. Now they become fathers. Now they're not sure, okay, what do I do now? Because I've never had this proper role model. I want to be better, but I don't know how, that kind of thing. Bro, read some of the comments there.
Nah, bro, first and foremost, I think it's really getting real. You're in the studio, bro, but it's crazy how God works because we actually seeing the fruits now of everything that you went through and so forth on. No, most definitely, but
which we need to speak about also. We got a conference coming up. We touched on it.
But now all things definitely work together for the good. But getting to some comments. Where do we stop? Leonie said it's a sad thing when a man has to leave his home to find peace. Mr. Banks goes on by saying, I like that the boy won't allow you to sleep. And then Leonie again, true, Wayne, it's left for conferences, and we only hear women speak at women conferences. Let's flip it so we can break the cycle. Juan, great discussion, gents. We have an opportunity to change the narrative, and we should do everything we can to bring healing to our families and our communities. Pastor Jones says, it is our right to speak out, man and woman. Nathan, he had a lot of abuse in primary school for being a PK that made him wish he wasn't a PK. And then Juan says, the enemy has been fighting men since the beginning, especially the day they were born.
So I think also even that PK one, and that's part of the reason a lot of pastors' kids go out and go do nonsense because they get laughed at. You're a pastor. The gents are doing nonsense, and then you trying to hey, this is not the house I came from. This is not what my parents taught me. But now again, I must now fit in with the guys. I must now do what the guys do, and then you become something that innately. I'm not this person, man. I'm trying to. Again, fit into what society says I need to be. But let's get into some solutions here. We're gonna have a men's conference. What's the date there?
So the men's conference is from Wednesday the 25th through to Friday the 27th of May. That's next week.
So I'll be speaking. Wayne will be speaking. Apostle Ati will be speaking. You will be there. Dr. Carl will be there. But to give people a little bit of a preview, because we'll discuss solutions there, we'll discuss everything there. Llewellyn and I are speaking about doing, and Wayne needs to jump in on this also, doing a men's camp, where we can speak about all these things, the masturbation issues, the being deprived issues, the some gents are suffering with dysfunction, the thing doesn't want to work. Some men are suffering with health, issues that they're scared to speak about. Some men are suffering with the bullying thing that they just never came out and said. Some men have been molested. And they are holding this thing since. Because now how do I come out and say, hey, gents, what happens now? Now the guys are going to laugh at me.
We grow up with the thinking that if I say it, if I come out and say it, my friends are going to think less of me. Or my wife is going to laugh at me.
They're going to think, look at this guy, he's a man, but he let him touch him inappropriately, or another man put his things there where it wasn't supposed to go. But we need to have this conversation. And we seriously speaking about doing leading our breakfast and all that. That's fine, but we went on a camp, right, with the church the other day, and we ended up, all the men were in one section and all the women were in one section. So all the gents are in the dorm now. We're there with our pajamas, shorts and whatever. Boom, conversation starts. Hey, bro. So the conversation started light. We're laughing, we're talking nonsense, whatever. Yeah, at some point, the gents started getting emotional. Hey, bro, but this really happened to me, this. Then it ended up let's pray for each other, gents. And then we realized, when we're in an environment like that where guards are down, here the gents start talking now to say, hey, gents, this happened to me when I was 5, this happened to me when I was 10. And nobody knows this, but I'm feeling comfortable to share it with the guys. This happened to me here, this happened to me there. And we need to cultivate more environments like that. That's why we're speaking about doing something like that, especially for men, only. Like women have their camps and their stuff, and we have camps together and all that. But men are gonna be more comfortable if it's just a group of gents. We're sitting in a dorm room with our pajamas, drinking coffee. Now we start talking. Here the stories come out.
Yeah, I think we have to get creative, simply because men, we don't like the huddle up.
Yeah.
You know, it's so hard to actually get men into a room and you talk like that. There's something amazing that happened last week, and I think it's not a coincidence that I'm here on this show today, is that I was invited to a golf day organized by The Wife. The Wife is a show that is on TBN. It's about Hlengiwe getting all the women together and to speak about what does it mean to be a wife and how to hold a marriage or a relationship. But what she did, she organized what most men love doing, which is to play golf. We can spend 5 to 6 hours playing golf and we are not really bothered, you know. So she organized the golf day at Stand City, and we were invited and part of that, and we showed up because it's golf. But then after the game of golf, there's prize giving. So we all go take a shower and we're coming back because it's a man thing. We want to know who has won. But before prize giving, Dr. Jerry Mufokeng is one of the prominent actors and speakers in our country, a total legend.
I saw you had a picture of him.
He has written a book called Be a Man, something like that. And he spoke to us for 30 minutes about how he discovered his dad when he was 58. And he just took us through some stuff, what is to be a real man. And we were able to listen because we had a golf day.
Yeah.
We didn't have a choice. So if we want to really speak to men and address the issues that men are going through, we're going to have to get creative.
Yeah.
Men are not like women where we can go to a spa and do our nails, that kind of stuff. There's few of us who can do that. But man wants to do stuff that men do. So we, as the church, as people who are prominent in our societies, we have to get creative and actually get men where they go and get, still a moment to just speak to men. It's just like planting a seed.
Yes.
Planting a seed. But my key word is we have to get creative. And The Wife, Hlengiwe, has actually done that brilliantly. And I can see this golf days going to grow bigger and bigger every year. Because if we said, no, we come into Sun City to go and play golf, all of us who play golf, we're going to show up. Because we already play golf.
Yeah.
So we are not being taken out of our natural habitat to be something that we are not. So we get addressed or get mentored or get taught in our natural habitat. And Dr. Jerry Mufokeng, bro, he didn't hold any punches.
He went for it.
He went for it. Like, the man is,
So
he's a father.
Solutions. What other solutions can we have? So one of the solutions, let's be creative. Let's get men in a room. Let's talk, gents.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about the conference coming up. Here's another plug for the conference. We've actually got a lifestyle exhibition that's part of the conference, where we want to encourage guys to say, but you know what? You don't have to be stuck in your routine. Don't do the same thing every day and expect a different result tomorrow. There's something, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling worn out, if you're feeling tired, there is ways out. There is things you can do that you can actually find yourself again. Find who you are created to be, who you're predestined to be. So we're going to have, we got bikers coming. We've got, there's even going to be guns on display. We even got a shooting club coming to join us. So it's really going to be something different that you won't really unless
usually find.
You won't usually find at a men's conference. But I agree with you. We need to be creative. We need to honestly realize that this is a different time that we're living in. We're competing, okay? We're competing with the media more today than ever before, because everyone has the media right here. Before the media was on a box, it was on a TV screen. If you go back in time, back into the 80s, the media only had certain times they could engage you. Now we've got to compete. Now we have to, if we really want to break the cycle, if we want to make sure that our society has strong men who know who they are, we have to be creative. We have to change our method. The gospel stays the same, but the method of getting it to the person, to their heart, we have to be willing to change.
I think one other probably solution would be, it's what I call the pass down. That means we're going to have to get our fathers that are existing right now, put them on a stand and ask him the difficult questions.
Yes.
how, Dr. Carl, how did you manage to stay with one wife,
Yes.
one woman for over 30 or 40 years?
Yes.
Then he needs to tell us how he has done it. Then in him being able to maintain a marriage for that long, surely there's so many things we can learn.
Yeah.
So it's a pass down. So it means that we now almost like, we're not forcing the baton. We're not waiting for people to die to give us the baton. We want to engage them now. So we ask the difficult questions, and they have to pass down
Yes.
the knowledge and their experiences. And I think we speak about mentorship and stuff like that. But I think our generation, we have to want to have that. Force it. Yes. Force the conversation now with our existing fathers. So listen, there's an issue of infidelity in our society. How did you manage to stay with one wife for 40 years? Ask him the tough question. It's called the pass down.
Yeah.
So even like, passing down the legacy that Llewellyn is talking about, it's not only the legacy in terms of your inheritance. We're talking about legacy of generosity, legacy of humility, integrity. The list goes on. That we can actually take our fathers, put them on the stand and let them ask them the good questions and the tough questions. Not the easy sort of questions which like any other dad can answer. But I wanted to ask about the real stuff.
The real stuff. Here's the other thing, right? And I was telling Llewellyn this before we started the show, and we're probably gonna have to close up at some point because we're getting close to the end. But there was this one lady. She was I said I'll share the story. She was a women's rights activist, like hardcore, strong. Yeah, men are trash, that kind of activist. And so the one day they were protesting outside of a men's clinic and whatever. So the one guy calls one of the heads of the clinic, goes outside and says, "Hey, who's running this, bro? No, you guys are trash. You're raping us and da 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 da." Like, the normal things we hear on 702, how men are trash, and if a girl is found somewhere again, then the whole thing flares up again of how men are rapists and men are just trash. And which, by the way, when I hear that, I think we are these men that are fathers, that are husbands, that are running, that are not, getting involved in bribery and corruption, that are doing things the proper moral way. So anyway, this guy now calls this lady in and says, "Nah, man, let's have a conversation. Let's engage, nice dialogue." So she comes in and he says, "Let me show you what I'm doing here at the clinic." Shows her, this is here where we do the prostate cancer checks. This is where we do this. This is where we do the men's counseling. We do the men's health. Okay, so now, what do you find? No, I actually find that a lot of men are dealing with father issues. A lot of men are dealing with this. She said by the end of that conversation she had with this guy, she went in with a whole, agenda that she was going to unpack and shoot his head off, to tell him how trash he is and how can he stand for men when men are being abusers and things. She said when she got to the end of their conversation and she realized, but actually what this guy is trying to do this clinic is, the objective of this clinic is to help society as a whole, because if they can achieve their objective as a clinic, we have a better husband at home, we have a better son at home, we have a son that's not running around on drugs, stealing my washing off the line, stealing my kettle and my iron. We have a better society. We have less abuse. So then she walked out that and she came out and she did a YouTube video and she was honest. She said, "I went in there ready to unleash, hell upon this man. But after he began to explain to me the hurt in the society and what the men are going through, I realized, whoa. Instead of fighting him, I actually need to find a way. How can I join with what he's doing and help? Because at the end of the day, it's going to help us all. We're going to stop being abused. We're going to stop being raped, because this is what the thing is trying to do. So again, I want to say that these conversations, and part of the reason men are scared to have these conversations is precisely because of that. So what are you saying now? We're not being raped. Are you now saying our plight is less or whatever? No, that's not what we're saying. I'm saying if we can have more of these conversations and actually get down to the crux of what's really going on, and why men feel the way they do and why they do the stupid things they do. You'll find there's a hurt 12-year-old there. That's father left when he was 7. Yeah. You'll find that there's a hurt boy there that was molested by his uncle when he was 5. You're going to find those things. And if we can get down to that, then maybe we can get closer to a solution, as opposed to men are trash and look, they're all rapists and look, they're all wife beaters and us. Let's get down to that and find out who's behind that abuse. It's not making the abuse right. The abuse is never right.
Yeah.
You're not gents. You should be better than doing the things that sometimes we get up to. But yeah, that would be my remarks in closing. I don't know, does anyone want to close a remark there?
I think we're on a good track when we begin to have conversations like this. And I think with the men's clinic, you find that probably 90% of the issues which men have are psychologically linked. The impotence and all that kind of stuff, it's here. If the man is totally messed up here, everything else goes. You know, there's so much pressure on men to provide, to be good role models, to be fathers, to be everything that society is expecting to be. And when you fall short of that, you are looked at down. They look down on you.
You trash.
You know, not necessarily trash, but it's like you are failing to live up to being a man. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it all begins with the conversation. I think the four of us here, plus our people who are viewers, we can agree on one thing, that there's some common denominators among us. That there are certain things that are constant and are similar among us. So we are fighting the same battle. We can help each one another. I got so much help from learning the story of being bullied because of the abuse that I had at home, or that pain of separation from my dad. I became a bully at school, proper bully. Like I would lock the class and beat the kids one by one, the whole class. You know,
because of your hurt.
Because of my brokenness. You know, when it's like Father's Day and their fathers show up to talk about what their fathers do for a living and my dad is nowhere to be found, I'll make up stories of what my dad used to do. Then when their fathers go out, I'm the one who doesn't have a father. I lock the classroom one by one, clap them proper. 35 old kids get clapped. And so when he was talking about bullying, I saw myself being that bully, but I also understand it is a brokenness which I was carrying and stuff like that. So the conversation needs to carry on, gents. And we're going to help each other with solutions.
Facts. Luke, closing remarks?
And I think the reality is that we must remember that men, you're not alone. Life is hard. Life happens to every single one of us. We have to be man enough to respond, identify what's happening, and be bold enough to say, well, you know what? I'm not okay. It's okay. You know, I think there's a song that says it's okay not to be okay. As men, we need to realize that. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have, to feel like this is just wrong. But what do you do with that? Don't stay there. Don't stay broken.
Let's move forward now.
Move forward. You know, I love, and I want to go back to Matthew 11:28. Jesus says, "Are you tired? Are you worn out?
Weary.
Are you burned out?" You know, but why does he say that? Because he doesn't want you to stay there. So men, we don't want you to. You're not supposed to. You weren't made to stay broken. You weren't made to be broken. You were made in the image and the likeness of God. Society and the pressures of life has resulted in where you are right now. But if you're willing to stand up and say, you know what, I need to deal with this. I need to be who God called me to be, who God intended me to be. We can start changing the conversation, changing the narrative. And we can fix the future for the generations to come. We can make sure that the genes that get passed on through us is the positive genes.
Just give us the information quick.
So once again,
before we close it, Jay.
Once again, guys, please join us. This is I'm personally inviting you. Join us next week from the 25th to the 27th, right here at Crystal Church. The theme of the conference is the breakout. There's so many of us that's tied and held down with things that shouldn't be binding us. Whether it's debt, whether it's poverty, whether it's insecurity that so many of us are facing. I believe that there is going to be a breakthrough and a breakout in your life. You need to be in the place where it's going to happen. Don't be on the sidelines. Get into the game and come and change your life. Next week, 25th to the 27th.
Facts. And it's also on the bottom of your screen there. You can see the information. Jay?
Yeah, no, it was a lovely Monday morning show. I love the fact that Wayne was speaking about let's be creative, because that's something that we were speaking about last week. I mean, it would be lovely going on a golf course or going cycling, or even bringing back those football tournaments that we used to have back in the day. You know, we still hold the championship, but
we need our trophy back.
But let's
y'all won because of Jesse, so don't even front.
Yeah, but let's make it happen again. But yeah, beautiful Monday morning show. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And to the viewers, hope you guys have a lovely, lovely Monday and week ahead.
Yeah, so I always say this, and I always say this to my wife. I say, as men, we actually more emotional than women. And we actually hold things, I don't know, I wouldn't say longer than women, but we hold things longer than you think we do.
Yeah.
We don't just get over something. We can hold things, bro, from school days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it still bothers us 10, 20 years down the line. And so yeah, there's that. So I don't know. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, the men's registration link is in the description.
Oh yes, okay, guys. So if you do wanna, gents, if this is for the gents now, if you're a lady and you want your husband to come through, please just hit the link on the bottom here of the video. It will take you through the registration. It's free. But do register so we know, who's coming, so you're also familiar with the time and everything of when it starts. So do jump on there. I'm going to be on there. Wayne's going to be on there. Llewellyn will be there. Also, Apostle Ati will be there. Jay will be there. I mean, everyone will be there. So come through. Come spend time with us. It's going to be fun. And we're going to have these conversations. And we're going to work on that camp.
Oh, yes.
We have to work also on that, like, maybe do something with, like, golf or whatever.
Yeah.
And then have the gents to talk, man. I think the gents need to talk. Yeah. Gents need to be vulnerable, open, share their stories, and we need to get this conversation moving in the right direction. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching today. Thank you for all the views. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for the interaction that you have given us. Please do subscribe if you have not yet subscribed. We are on 1,089. It is moving. We're less than 2 years old, and we passed the 1,000 mark, which is good. So thank you so much for being a part of what we do here. Please do subscribe, please like, please share this video. If you do have someone that is going through these things, share this with them, and also invite them to the men's event. And maybe, yesterday we had so many testimonies of people coming to events, or people coming like, that day my life was changed. And that just could very well be the thing that they could hear, and they could change the direction of their life. So please do join us for the conference, and also please do subscribe. Thank you for joining us today. See you on the next one. Love you. Goodbye.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to it.
Good morning to the folks. What up to the youngins, and bless up to the world.
And then Jay just put your info on blast like that.
It's what the people want to know, bro. My bad.
Nah, bro.